Hey, welcome back to the Soul Pod. This is Stacy. There's a change happening, and I talk about this a lot, but you feel it, right? You feel it, this shift that's going on in the world. When enough people become aware, when enough intention gets put out there, and it really starts with consciousness, things happen. And there's been a shift in consciousness that's really big. I want to talk today about a little microcosm of that consciousness and a really kind of a case study of how to look at it to understand how it works. There's a thing called the Maharishi effect. You ever heard of this? Maharishi effect. Uh, in I think it was 1960 or 61, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, uh, who was a transcendental meditation instructor, teacher, guru, whatever you'd like to call him. He said that if you theorize that if a certain percentage of the population, about 1% of a population of a particular area, group, city, town, planet, focused on a specific outcome, that it would change, alter the way things are. And that if you get a group of people to meditate on an intention, then you can actually change the outcome of things. Well, this has been there's been multiple studies done around this, multiple actual events where people have gone in with the intention of doing something specific and had a specific outcome, the intended outcome, which falls way outside of the bounds of statistical probability. And I'll give you some examples of that. Um, One of the big ones, the most recent one, and there were multiple leading up to this, where again about 1% of the population of an area said, okay, we're going to meditate on this particular outcome. In Washington, D.C. in 1993, over 4,000 meditators focused on the intention of reducing violent crime. And during this time in Washington, D.C., if you look back in the history, the 90s in D.C. were incredibly violent. It's one of the most violent cities in America, which is odd thinking, it's our capital, but there it is. So these 4,000 plus people were meditating on this, and it went on for weeks. And during the time of this meditation, meditating on reduction in violence, violent crime in the city dropped significantly. It was 23.3% reduction in violent crime during the time of this meditation. Now, when you break down the statistical analysis of the likelihood of that happening, it's something close to winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The likelihood of them saying, we're going to reduce violent crime during this time in this city. There was no reason, there was no correlation that could explain why during that period of time there would be a reduction in it compared to all the statistics available about violent crime in the city. How do you explain that? That someone if someone stands up and says, "Okay, I'm going to make it rain," and it starts raining, and they go, "There you go." What are the odds of an outcome happening right after a person says, "This is what we're going to do"? So when you look at the statistical analysis on this, it's pretty freaking mind blowing. And it's not just that it happened in DC in '93; it's that it happens again and again and again and again. Another group meditated on peace in the Middle East in and around Israel. I forget what year this was, but again, same thing. Like there's this unexplainable drop in violence during the period of this meditation. So the reason I bring this up is because there's something about intention. There's something about it. This is all tied to consciousness. When our consciousness starts to change, start to evolve, starts to look at things from a different perspective, it starts at that point where when we consciously say, as a group, we all start thinking in alignment. It's like the magnetic poles, like when you have something and you point a magnet at it and everything points toward the magnet. It's kind of like that. Everything sort of lines up, and then society follows. And there's a lot of examples of this. There was the end of the Vietnam War, for instance, when opinions shift, that was consciousness. That was a bunch of different minds thinking a specific way, and that changed actions, intentions. So consciousness, intentions, action. It changes it into a straight line of the way people are thinking. And you don't need all of the population. You just a large enough portion of the population to have that same conscious sort of energy that drives their actions. But it all starts with consciousness. It's beginning to think a particular way is so powerful that it drives actions. Now, in the case of the Maharishi effect, it drove actions just through consciousness alone. That's how powerful it is behind the scenes. Now, of course, it drives actions, of course, too. You look at the civil rights movement, the environmental movements, spiritual and religious revivals throughout the centuries. Every one of these things was driven by consciousness first, followed by intention, followed by action. But if you look at the Maharishi effect, we have to stop and wonder how much is driven simply by intention, things that we don't measure. With the Maharishi effect, when that whole thing happened, a group of people said, we're going to do this. So they focused on the outcomes, and the outcomes were measurable. But the only reason we noticed that there are these measurable outcomes, these differences, was because they told you their intention. They said, we are going to reduce crime in DC during the time that we're meditating. And so, oh my gosh, look at that. What they said was going to happen, happened, right? Now, if they hadn't said that, would we have noticed? Would it have just been, oh, cool, man, last couple of weeks were freaking great in DC? Yeah, we wouldn't have noticed. We wouldn't have noticed because they wouldn't have stated the intention, and we wouldn't have been focused on that. There'd be no light shining on that outcome. So my question is this: intention right now in the world has shifted a lot. I know you feel it. The spiritual emergence is happening. This great moment we're entering into, no matter what you want to call it, and there's dozens and dozens of names for it. Every culture has a name for it, and they've been talking about it for thousands of years. And here we are. Aren't we lucky? We're living through this crazy ass time, but you can feel it. You can feel the vibration. You can feel the change. You can feel the turmoil, because there's a big tug of war going on for those trying to hold on to the old while the new's coming in. And there's a massive shift around the world. You just look politically, like the seed change of people just throwing out old governments, bringing in new ones. It's like this massive pendulum swing. Whether you like it or not, there's something going on. There's something going on, some wild and crazy shit going on. And it's an interesting time to live through. The pendulum's going to swing back again at some point, because it always does. But right now, everything that's happening, you got to wonder what's behind that, and what in that comes from intention can we not measure? What are we not measuring because no one's shining a light on it? What are we not looking at? What kind of amazing stuff is happening at this very moment that we're not measuring? Because unless you measure it, you don't notice. If there's no light shining on it, you don't notice. Where's your heart right now? Where's your heart? Where's your consciousness? Where's your intention? What's going on in your world? Are you making a change? Are you shifting things in your world as well? Do you feel it? You feeling it right there? This thing that we're going through, this wild ass shift. It is what it is. You can come along for the ride, or you can get drugged behind the train. But the train has left the station. Come along for the ride. Think good thoughts. Be kind to people today. There's a lot of people going through a lot right now. A lot of people that are scared, that are freaked out, that are anxious about change. Change has got to happen. Change is going to happen. It's the only thing that's constant. Be kind to each other. Be kind to those who are hurting. Consciousness is important. Think good thoughts. Be hopeful. Keep your heart open. And watch for miracles, because, man, it's happening right now all around us. Where are we going? Well, wait till we get through this star belt that we're swinging through as a universe, as a galaxy, and see where we end up on the other side. But it's an interesting time to be alive. It's not boring, at least. Talk to you guys soon.